Over the last month, I've put out 2 videos predicting what I think will happen in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and beyond. Between those 2 videos, they've tallied up over 16,000 views and nearly 600 comments. And thank you so much to everyone that's watched the videos, left awesome comments, and new people to the channel that have subscribed. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much. And one thing I started noticing as I was reading the comments is you guys were leaving amazing theories and predictions. So in this video, what I've done is I've compiled the best theories and predictions, and I'm gonna read through them, and we're gonna talk about it. Also be warned, this will have spoilers. So let's get started. What's going on? My name is Taylor, and welcome to the Gaming Shelf. If you enjoy JRPGs and want to stay up to date with the latest news, reviews, and other fun videos, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. Alright, the first theory was brought to us from Phantom Thief B and the Manstar, and this is a great theory and one I can't believe I didn't think of myself. They both think that Yuffie will steal our materia either in Calmer early on, and that'll be a good way to not only set up an encounter with her later, but that'll reset all our materia. And honestly, I think this is a great prediction. I think this is probably going to happen. And when I was thinking of my own predictions, I never thought of kind of reordering the game, but having her do that early on as opposed to way later when you go to Wutai makes a lot of sense, and I really like this theory. Alright, this next theory comes from Hookah LeConk, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name, and they said, I agree with you on part 2 will probably start with a flashback sequence. However, what if they pulled a complete 180 and you start off playing as Zack, who just brought Cloud home? Now I think that would be awesome because that would pick up right from where part 1 ended, and it'll give us some more time to get to know Zack and get to know Cloud and see what's happening in this other timeline. Now again, that really depends on if we really are gonna do stuff in this other timeline. Another comment had mentioned something about what if it's like Final Fantasy VIII with Laguna, where we're constantly thinking of this other timeline and maybe at some point they converge, but nonetheless, I really like this comment from Hookah. Alright, and the most common prediction and theory was mentioned by quite a few of you, and I can't believe I didn't really mention this more in my prediction video, but a lot of you said that you want the obligatory beach anime fan service episode where we're at the beach and the girls are wearing bikinis and stuff like that, and honestly, I think it will be way too hard for Square to resist not doing that. In a similar way to how we could pick out the dresses for Aerith and Tifa in the wall market segment, maybe we can pick out their swimsuits or their outfits or something, but I think there will definitely be a fan service beach episode. These are great theories, and I definitely would be surprised if this didn't happen. Alright, the next prediction comes from Michael Kragseth, and he says, it'd be cool if we could play as Sephiroth in that flashback. Now, I hadn't even thought of that. That would be super cool. Now, you play as a lot of different characters in OG Final Fantasy VII. You know, you play as Cloud a lot, obviously. There's times where you play as Tifa, there's times where you play as Cid, but I never thought of playing as Sephiroth. How cool would that be to just be a total badass? You know, you're wiping out that dragon, so not only could you get a sense of how powerful he is from Cloud's perspective by watching how powerful he is, but it'd be cool to be Sephiroth and just see how powerful he is by being able to one-shot enemies and stuff. I think that's a great theory. Alright, this next prediction comes from Yoshi Nakamura, and they say, one popular prediction is that the entire story of Final Fantasy VII Remake is a story after Aerith died in the original Final Fantasy VII, and she goes to another timeline to change everything. Now, this is not a theory that I have heard, but it's one that makes a lot of sense to me. Aerith seems to know the future. She seems to know a lot about what's going on, and it always confused me how she seemed to know all this. There's really no explanation for it, and nothing in the original Final Fantasy VII game would give us any hints as to why she would know this. So the idea that she is coming back from the live stream from the original Final Fantasy VII timeline to now come back to change things is an interesting theory, and I like it, and I'll be curious to see if it comes out to be true. So one of my predictions in my first video was that we would end up being the one to kill Aerith. And AJ Lavender had a really great follow-up saying, what would be even more insane is that if we go to the Forgotten City and that scene happens, Cloud this time pushes Aerith out of the way to save her, and we as gamers are like, yay, hooray. Now he's left standing with Sephiroth with the Buster Sword in hand, and all of a sudden Cloud has his Mako poisoning glitch scenario, and now appears with this aura around him and turns into a mini boss fight after some short dialogue. Then it goes back to where Cloud looks down and discovers that it wasn't Sephiroth, and that he manipulated Cloud's mind to think it was him, but it was Aerith the whole time. I really love this theory because I immediately put myself in the position as if I was playing the game, like how it would feel as I'm playing the game. All right, we saved Aerith, yay, great, we're feeling great. We have an intense fight with Sephiroth, but then our mind stops being all crazy and it turns out we were the ones that killed her. That would be completely heartbreaking. That would be such an incredible way to do that scene if that's exactly how that scene is gonna play out. So AJ, great theory. Now, before I move on to your next prediction, I just wanted to let you know that over 91% of people that have been watching my videos are not subscribed. So if that's you and you enjoy videos like this, then please consider subscribing. Alright, this next one comes from Michael Wilson, and I think it's a great opportunity for some Barret story development. So this is in reply to a theory about Barret giving his big speech in Cosmo Canyon after he knows that Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse died in Midgar. And so he says, but remember, he doesn't know that Biggs and Jesse are possibly alive, and Wedge may or may not be alive. He won't know about Biggs and Jesse's fate by the time he gets to Cosmo Canyon, so he can't still make the speech and the motivation is still there. Imagine the reunion where he runs into them at the Gold Saucer when they go back for the Keystone. And then think of the motivation he'll have at that point when he's been given a second chance to keep them safe by defeating Sephiroth. I love this theory because it gives some opportunity for some great character development for Barret. And especially think about it in contrast to what happened in original Final Fantasy VII. He's really defeated, he's bummed that he couldn't save his friends, but now think that, wow, he's got a second chance to keep them alive and keep them safe. I think that would just be so cool and it'd be a great reunion moment. Now, whether that happens in Cosmo Canyon or somewhere else or wherever it happens, I think that's a great theory. Good one, Michael. Alright, this next one from Hellbilly Jr. is super interesting and it really got me thinking. He shares a few things, but one in particular stood out. Also, Chadley. I think that weird little android is going to try and help us out again. I'm working on a theory that Hojo will use him to trap us instead of Cait Sith in this iteration. I think this is fantastic. As the players, our guard is down. We know that he's just an NPC, he's nothing important, so if we run into him again, oh great, he's awesome, so we'll have positive thoughts about Chadley because he helped us out in the first game. And the more I thought about it, I remembered Cait Sith's very small inclusion in part 1. It's just the cat puppet, not the Mog puppet, and they're sitting there watching the plate fall. I'm trying to imagine Reeves sitting back in his office controlling Cait Sith, watching the plate fall and reacting and stuff. That just doesn't make any sense. So I'm wondering if they're going to do something different with Cait Sith, or in fact they're just going to do this with Chadley in his place. I don't know, but I really like this theory, and I think it would be a great twist and it would be a great surprise for new and old players. Alright, this next one comes from Hard Punk Core, and they say, it seems like they're building up to the Avalanche Wutai connection and a possible second Shinra Wutai conflict. It's possible that the game could end with that. It would be dramatic, new, and could provide a final boss that's from Shinra. Also, the Wutai Pagoda fights would be a good opportunity for endgame optional super bosses. I like this theory because, again, I'm thinking very rigidly about like how are they going to translate the old ones into this new game, but completely changing up Wutai and maybe adding it earlier in the game. I think that could be really interesting, and it would definitely solve the problem of who's the final boss, because a lot of people are thinking we can't do Sephiroth again, but if we do something in Wutai and it's from Shinra, that could be really cool. Alright, Jasser JSK says, in the final part, we the players will have 7 seconds to decide either kill Aerith and keep the timeline intact, or Aerith lives but miss out on something big. So this really is just a multiple ending scenario. I would let the planet burn by meteor if I could save Aerith. I like your thinking, Jasser. I think a lot of people would agree with you. Now, we know Nomura's penchant for making multiple endings in Kingdom Hearts, so it wouldn't surprise me if they set up a multiple ending scenario. Now, whether that carries through all the different games or that's just something that you can decide at the end of the final part, however many parts there are, I like this idea a lot because I think people would love to think, hey, maybe I can save Aerith, or maybe not, and we're just gonna let the game play out like it originally had. But I kind of like these particular set of multiple endings. One of the problems I kept running into was who is going to be the final boss in part 2. I think a lot of people would think, you know, if we keep fighting Sephiroth over and over, that's going to get stale. And I think James Gravel provided a great solution. I think it would be awesome if you fought Vincent in one of his limit break forms and took him for just another monster, but then upon defeating him, he returns to being human. Then he could reveal that he's been under Hojo's influence all this time, but thanks to you, he was able to break free from the spell. I like this idea a lot because I've been thinking, like, are we really going to act out Vincent's part again, where you just walk down there, you talk to him, and we leave? It's got to be more interesting because that original one was not all that interesting, but encountering just some crazy freak monster, maybe a new form that we wouldn't know as old players, and then once we beat him, he turns back into Vincent. I think that could be a really cool, nice surprise. Last and certainly not least is one of my favorite predictions, and it comes from Caslo25, and he says, I still think the game will end with Cloud handing the Black Materia off at the North Crater, and that final boss fight is against Cloud. That is brilliant. I think that is super cool because, again, it solves the problem of who is the final boss fight? Who do we fight at the end? And Cloud's mind being totally warped, handing the Black Materia off to Sephiroth, I think turning the tables and making him a boss, and you have to control the other characters and fight him and kind of break him out of his daze, I think that would be super, super cool, and I think it would be a huge surprise and a huge twist for new players and old players. Now, all these theories came from you, the community, and I really, really appreciate it. If you ever have ideas for videos or feel like leaving your feedback, don't hesitate. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. Now in case you somehow missed either of those videos, definitely check out my playlist of all the Final Fantasy VII Remake content that I've been doing here on the channel. And if you're new here or you just haven't subscribed yet, then definitely consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.